What's up gamers, Cryptico here, and welcome back to Lowering the Mark, a show where I analyze the current and former world records of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe time trial runs to see how these records get faster over time. We'll look at elements such as the loadout, racing lines, and mushroom usage to better understand what's bringing these times down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when my videos go live. For today's episode, we're shifting up a gear and hopping over to the Banana Cup for the last time this season to take a look at its best course, Royal Raceway at 200cc. On April 29th, 2017, the world record for this run was set at 1 minute 27.813 seconds by the American player Cinda. Fast forward to a tad over 3 months ago on March 7th, 2022, and the record was brought all the way down to 1 minute 23.711 seconds by fellow American Technical. That's a 4.1 second improvement between records and a 4.6% faster time. Our former world record holder Cinda has broken 32 world records across 11 unique runs and has spent just over 100 days holding at least one world record. Our current world record holder Technical has racked up 40 world records across 6 unique runs and has just reached 600 days holding at least one of his 3 current world records. At pre-release, this world record was well over 132 and it quickly got into the 126 range, mostly thanks to Cinda, Jimmy, and Canadian player John. As Jimmy edged closer and closer to 125, Europe would step in and spoil the fun. Mick from France got the sub first, and then Kevin from Ireland took it down further all the way to another second break at 124. Now into 2018, Doodle shaved a very small amount of time off that record and went toe-to-toe with Somen as the record got faster. He'd pull away and set this 124.3 that stood as the world record for a day less than a year. Dutch player Mies stepped in and stopped Somen's reign. He probably took it personally as he dropped 4 consecutive records, which included this 124.02 that stood as the world record for over 420 days. If not for Mies, Somen would have put together a top 10 longest lasting world record reign on this course. Somen would get the first 123 but then fell off as Pi, Alberto, and Technical stepped up and collectively brought the record down by another 0.2 of a second. In total, the record was broken 72 times by only 17 different players. These loadouts are decently matched, but one is just way better than the other. Cinda goes with the combo of King Boo driving the Streetle with the Azure Rollers and the Super Glider. Technical goes with Waluigi driving the Teddy Buggy with the Azure Rollers and the Gold Glider. In an interesting turn of events, it's the current world record holder who has the higher top speed and the former with the advantage in acceleration, handling, and mini turbo. Granted, Cinda doesn't lead Tech by much in those stats, but either way, Tech still comes out ahead because for this run, a higher top speed is rewarded more than on some other courses, and he's gonna need it to stay on this world record pace. I absolutely cannot say enough good things about Royal Raceway. It's a perfect balance of being a normal circuit track and one that allows for all the chaos this game has to offer. The time trial at 200cc also gets really satisfying because of how each racer glides through the many twists and turns this course offers. Let's dive into it. Cinda hits the rocket start out of the gate before drifting around these first 2 turns for a few coins and a super mini turbo. He'll chain that with a brake drift assisted super mini turbo as he closes out the section. Technical also hits the rocket start and goes tighter around that first turn for the super mini turbo. Then he performs this no item shortcut for another super mini turbo as he closes out less 1. Right off the bat, we notice Tech go for not only tighter turns, but for the Nisk right out of the gate. That's going to save him a lot of time over the course of this race as he already leads Cinda by nearly a second going into S2. Cinda continues charging this super mini turbo before chaining a normal one to that and hopping over the grass a bit to cut a bit of that next turn out. He then grabs this ultra mini turbo around the bend before heading straight up this ramp to the glider. Technical also carries that super mini turbo into the quick normal one and tiny turn skip. After that, he grabs only a super mini turbo around the next turn. As he makes his way up the ramp, he positions himself to start charging this quick mini turbo that he'll release off the glider. Aside from Cinda's ultra mini turbo and Tech's setup for a motion glider, S2 was done pretty much the exact same way by both racers. Tech comes out on top though, as he now sits ahead by over 1.1 seconds going into S3. Cinda tricks off the glider and flies down quickly to the road so he can use his first mushroom to cut through this grass patch and carry that drift all the way up to an ultra mini turbo. He quickly hops a bit to get back on his line, and then closes out the lap with a super mini turbo around the final turn. Technical grabs that mini turbo off the glider and uses motion glider to essentially fling himself across the gap faster. Once he lands, he'll also grab that same shortcut and carry the drift out to an Ultra Mini Turbo. He closes out the lap with a quick hop and Super Mini Turbo the same way Cinda did. It's unclear exactly how much time that brief motion glider saves here, but Tech didn't do it for no reason, and his lead is proof of that. He now leads Cinda by over 1.3 seconds after one lap. Into lap 2, Cinda hugs the inside through both turns and gets that first Super Mini Turbo. After that, he brake drifts around the next turn for another one, then follows that up by chaining this third Super Mini Turbo that he'll get in S2. Technical goes through the first two turns the same way he did on lap 1 for that same Super Mini Turbo. Let's stop right here so we can further break down this Nisk. It's a pretty standard drift, but he's off-road for a good chunk of it. The reason he doesn't lose the Mini Turbo is because of his top speed being so high that as he drifts onto the grass, he's still carrying enough speed in that moment to keep charging the Super Mini Turbo. He closes out the section by chaining his third Super Mini Turbo as his lead jumps up to over 2 seconds at the end of S1. Through the first half of S2, both racers get their Super Mini Turbo and then chain a quick normal one to hop over this bit of grass. Around the bend, Cinda grabs the Ultra Mini Turbo while Tech only goes for the Super one. Cinda continues to drive straight up to the glider ramp, and Tech will do the same up to a point where he starts charging up this Mini Turbo he'll release in the air. He's now up on Cinda by over 2.3 seconds at the end of S2. Cinda tricks off the glider and heads straight down into that same mushroom cut from lap 1. He carries that drift all the way out to an Ultra Mini Turbo before closing out the lap with a quick Super Mini Turbo. No changes here. This motion glider from Technical is pretty straightforward. He charges the drift off the ramp, then with motion controls, flings his controller so his kart whips right back onto a good line and he rides it all the way out to the track. At that point, he too uses his second mushroom to cut out that wide turn and gets the Ultra Mini Turbo as a result. One additional Super Mini Turbo will close out the lap as he remains ahead of Cinda by 2.7 seconds after outsplitting his lap by 1.4 seconds. To end this race, Cinda tightly drifts around the first two turns for that Super Mini Turbo, then chains another one after brake drifting a bit. He follows that up with another Super Mini Turbo, then a quick normal one to hop over this bit of grass on his way to the next turn. Around the bend, he gets another Ultra Mini Turbo before riding straight up this ramp to the glider. One trick and flight later, he uses his final mushroom to cut through this grass patch and gets both the Ultra and Super Mini Turbos he needs to close out the lap. Technical also follows his previous lap's approach to close out the race. That looks like this first Super Mini Turbo chained with his no-item brake drift assisted shortcut into another Super Mini Turbo. He'll then chain another Super Mini Turbo to a quick normal one to hop over this little bit of grass. One Super Mini Turbo around the bend later, he's riding up the hill and sets up one last motion glider by drifting off the ramp for the quick Mini Turbo. Once he hits the ground, he'll hit that same shortcut and grab the Ultra and Super Mini Turbos before crossing the finish line. He'd end up posting a time that was over 4.1 seconds faster than Cinda's former world record. So by perfecting that Nisk at the beginning, having a higher top speed for those straightaways, and motion glider, Technical was able to put together a pretty impressive run on this course. He's no doubt the king of the Royal Raceway for the time being, and it only took him 2 world records to do so. I was able to speak with him a little bit more about the record, so let's hear what he had to say. What was going through your mind when you broke this world record?
I honestly didn't feel much since my pace was over 80 milliseconds behind the previous world record and I had clutched up a huge lap 3. I was more surprised and humored than anything.
Can you explain why doing motion glider for this run makes sense? How much time does it save per lap?
Motion glider mainly helps with the glider landing where you have to turn left immediately to take the shortcut. It gains in the air as well, but it's mainly at the landing since your momentum is already going in that direction from the motion. I think it saves around 75 milliseconds per lap.
Do you think this record is reaching its limit at the best known sum time of 0.5, or will further optimization bring this record down below that?
I think it still has a decent amount of room for improvement. The current world record doesn't have the best driving on laps 1 and 2, and I've had paces more than 0.1 ahead of it into lap 3. A 0.5 is definitely doable, but a 0.4 can't be ruled out either.
Thanks for providing some additional insight to your record. Good luck on improving it further. The best known splits for this run show that there's still a decent chunk of time that can be knocked off. Technical holds the majority of the best known sum time along with Alberto, who's recorded the fastest closing lap we've seen so far. Coincidentally, it's also the split that is furthest away from Tech's world record lap 3. The first 2 laps have no more than 2/3 of a tenth of a second that can be knocked off, but all told you're looking at around 10.5 frames worth of improvement. Now, such improvement could come from anywhere, but in this instance, there's really only 2 players that can make it happen. The worldwide top 10 consists of 8 national and 3 continental record holders. Technical sits at the top, less than 100th of a second behind him is Alberto, and Norwegian record holder Pi rounds out the top 3. Army and R make up the 4 and 5 spots and are separated by 1/10 of a second. 6th through 8th place are made up of Eternal X, Somen, and Mies, and they share just over 3/100ths of a second in separation. Rounding up the top 10, we have and Stove, who sit over half a second back from the world record. To point out the obvious, Tech's world record here is by no means a safe one. Yes, it's been the record for almost 100 days now, but Alberto has been creeping up this leaderboard, and from what I can tell, he's about to take the top spot back. Can't tell you when, but it's bound to happen. That's the end of episode 77. Hope you found it interesting. Shout out Technical for coming back on for a brief Q&A. Hope to see more of you soon. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your friends, and comment on which course you'd like me to analyze next. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.